Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how to set up, in this case, GstarCAD. I will mention though that GstarCAD is incredibly similar to AutoCAD, therefore pretty much everything I show you will be applicable to AutoCAD. Obviously the main reason for creating this video is to get through these points right here, but since I am using GstarCAD, since I just installed the newest version not too long ago, I do want to go through these topics here. Mostly just discussing the pros and cons to using GstarCAD, why I've stuck with AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT for so long, and some additional thoughts. So these video notes, I'll just glaze over them. I will mention that I did record this video. Unfortunately, I botched the recording. I recorded the top left corner of my screen only. Originally, I wanted to just install GstarCAD, not even touch it, just so it looks exactly like yours would look. But because I already recorded that video and set it up, I had to kind of go back. So if you're wondering why your grid might look different or the crosshairs don't look quite the same, that's why. But I think I've reverted enough, so much so that I'll basically have to change everything all over again, so you will be able to follow along. So I want to move on to this heading right away, which is reasons why I like GstarCAD. The first point is price compared to value. I feel like that's unmatched and with the AutoCAD type programs right now. The next point is marketing. I don't like how not just CAD programs, everything like construction management software, construction estimating software, just the marketing I feel like is out of control. So I like their simple approach to marketing. No nonsense, less nonsense at least. Point number 3 here is that GstarCAD includes a lot of neat goodies. One example is all these themes. So I can switch to light blue, which looks much better with the white background that we're going to change to shortly. And they have like tons of hatches in this program. Like all these things, they seem like they'd be easy to include with a CAD program, but other CAD programs just don't bother. But yeah, there's a lot of nice little touches that included with GstarCAD. And the last point here, as I've already basically mentioned, is that GstarCAD is probably the most similar AutoCAD alternative, at least out of the ones I've tried. And when I try a program, I actually use it. I'm not like someone that just spends 5 minutes in it. GstarCAD is very similar, so for me, at least, it's by far the easiest AutoCAD clone to adjust to coming from AutoCAD full. So now, if I have so many good things to say about GstarCAD, why am I sticking with AutoCAD LT for so long? Well, previous versions of GstarCAD were less stable. Version 25 seems way better so far. Another reason was the random bugs I'd encounter. Sometimes these bugs would occur in drawings that were just terribly set up anyways. These bugs are much easier to deal with in-house. So if your drawings are more self-contained and you're not working with clients and you have a lot of different clients to work with, it's safer to stick with AutoCAD or AutoCAD LT. So yeah, I guess the second point here is that not really a problem if I'm sticking with my own in-house work, my own in-house standards. But when you're dealing with clients, you do have to play it safe. All these points I should mention are getting better and better, trending better and better with each release. This third point I should have just deleted because any CAD clone, you do have to do some work to your Lisp routines. I've had to do far less work to my AutoLisp routines to get them to work in GstarCAD compared with other clones. And last is the English support, and again, that's getting better and better with every release. So moving on to this point here, I just want to tell a short little story about I mentioned the marketing earlier. There's one particular vendor that is just unloaded an army of these resellers into the CAD community, and they're always posting nonsense and lies about why their program is better than others. And one vendor or one reseller claim that some of these Chinese programs, there's GstarCAD and ZWCAD, they're both really good AutoCAD alternatives. They said they're not going to use Chinese software. Well, the program they were promoting actually has an office in China anyways, so I don't want to get into the geopolitics. I'll just say that my opinion is that supporting a company in China or not supporting them, you're not going to change anything. Like, how many of us have iPhones, right? And that those are built in China. So whatever. But I just felt like that that reseller's comments were very short-sighted and hypocritical, because obviously that their company had an office in China, and for that matter, Russia as well. So that is what it is. The last point I have here is supporting the competition. AutoCAD is getting more and more expensive. I think in Canadian pesos it's up to like $2,500 per year. That $2,500 per year, and I happen to know that I'm competing against people on the international stage who are using crack copies of AutoCAD, and Autodesk isn't really doing much to stop that, to be honest. So I feel like right now, I think, is the most important time to support the competition. So with all that out of the way, we can finally move on to the real reason for making this video. I have these 6 steps listed in order, of course, but you don't need to do these in order. Workspace is listed as number 1, more or less because it's what we're staring at in front of us right now. There are some exceptions to that. So what I'm doing is I'm going to turn on my properties window. I'm going to dock my command line to the bottom. So I did another take, but I want this to go really quick because it's a good opportunity to save some time. The workspace is pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is save as, not save as, workspace, save as. Now the workspace I created is KCS 2D drafting, but if you wanted to type something in here, you could do that. But I'm just going to go with the default value. It says, do you want to overwrite? I'm going to do yes. So as long as there's not something you want to save with the alternate workspace, you just do that. So what this does is when I close GstarCAD and reopen it, my command line will be docked, my properties window will be open, and my ribbon will appear as you see before you. So if I went to Classic, for example, messed around with this, added and subtracted some of these tools, it should, if I do that save as, it should appear as my workspace. So of course, if you do something, I think I saved the 2D drafting already. Anyways, we'll just go back to that. And if you do have any questions about the workspace, because I did go through it quite fast, just ask in the comments below. But yeah, it's a nice little opportunity to keep the video a little bit shorter. So I'm going to move on to number 2, options, which is a little bit more involved next. The options is actually quite involving. Hopefully I can do it in a single take. To make things easier on myself, I'm just going to go tab by tab. So I'll discuss the Files tab a little bit here. You may or may not have to add folder paths rather, to these. I'll just show you a quick example. I'm going to do the dash insert command. Just type some gibberish. So it can't find that block, and these are all the directories it looks for that block in. So it's really a case-by-case basis, but you may or may not have to add support file search paths. Working support file search paths. I'm going to be honest, I don't know the difference between these right now. I think maybe in the past I did. So what I do add to the files is, and I think this is AutoCAD only because I can't find something called the trusted files location. But if you're using Autolist files and you're loading them from a folder that's not in your trusted locations, you'll get a warning message. So you'd add that in AutoCAD, and I do have directions on how to do that somewhere on my channel. So if you can't find it and you're using Lisp, just let me know in the comments below. But yeah, so the files are, there's so many things I could spend an hour on it, but that'll only apply to certain people. So anyways, I'm going to move on to the display. The colors, I'm going to finally get rid of our black background. So some of these I actually had changed already because I think I mentioned that I recorded this before and kind of botched the recording. So that's why I'll just get out of here quickly. My grid might not look like the default grid that you initially had. But anyways, we'll go to options. This is another thing I have on my channel. If you're using my templates, you know that I have all my colors listed. So you have different layouts model space, of course, which we're in right now, paper space, block editor. But what we're going to do is just change the uniform background. I think I had it at, I can't remember, but let's do 252, 252, 250. Just a slightly, ever so slightly off yellow. We'll go with that. Apply and close. We'll go to OK. So remember that when you're in layouts, you can control like this drawing background. You control the drawing foreground. You can even control what it looks like inside the viewports a little bit. So there's more to the colors than that. And I do have, yeah, a more in-depth guide listed to that on my channel somewhere. And again, just for all these things, just ask me in the comments if you need a link to that. But yeah, so that's the colors. This theme, I showed you how to access that here. This is GstarCAD only. Let's just go through these, see what they all look like. That one looks pretty good, a little intense for me. Black looks pretty good. Silver, I like that. I think I'll go with silver and aqua. Let's switch it to silver. Hit apply. We'll go with that. So the colors take a while to set up. So when you're setting them up, you don't want to do it more than once. So what I do is save my profile after setting up those colors. So I've had trouble in the past where where I've had my stuff not save. So I'm going to do KCS-white background. So what I'm doing is I rename that one. I'm going to go apply and close. Get rid of that twice. I'm just going to delete this now. Oops, I got to double click on that. Up here it's kind of inconspicuous, but that's where it tells you which profile you're set in. So now I can delete this one. Now, is there a better way to do that? Probably, but that's what I've done for years, and it's worked every time for me. So anyways, yeah, get your color set. Once you go through that painstaking process, you might want to save your profile. Yeah, it should save the changes when you hit apply, but for some reason, I don't know if it was a AutoCAD or GstarCAD or something, it didn't do it in the past version. So I just do that when I've made a bunch of changes. So yeah, we have the moving on from tab to tab. I'll just glance at this. I did forget some stuff. Let's do the crosshair size right now. So you can see what my crosshairs look like. This is the percentage of the screen that your crosshairs take up, and I always set it to 100. So they're taking up the whole screen. So this other stuff is just stuff to look at, like the fade control. That's just XREFs, in place edit. That stuff will take me so long to explain. The video will get too long. So any questions, just ask me in the comments. Sorry for repeating that once again. So you have some stuff here that's kind of important if someone's using an ancient version of AutoCAD or whatever. This is where you'd adjust the default setting, but whenever you do a save as, you have this option come up anyways. So I just leave it as the newer file format. Autosave is here, so if you're having laggy autosaves, but your program's relatively stable, you might want to put that up to 20 minutes. So yeah, again, this stuff you just kind of look at. Plot and publish has something important. Plot stamps are controlled somewhere in here, and I always hated dealing with that. I'm going to skip that in this video. If you want me to make a video on turning that off, I can, but plot style table settings, this is something that's hard for people to find. So you have this add or edit plot style tables. All this does is open up Windows Explorer. It opened up on the screen on my right, but I'll just show you that really quickly. So what you do is just you get this folder open. I guess I don't need these, I'll just delete them. But let's say you have a plot style table that you're taken from AutoCAD or a previous install of GstarCAD. All you do is have it on your clipboard. paste it in here. So remember, you go to plot style table settings and just go find this button right here. And then you just paste your plot style table in this folder. So you could do the same thing by browsing, not even having GstarCAD open and just browsing to that folder. But yeah, it's kind of an archaic way of doing that, but it works just fine. But yeah, that's how you add or transfer your plot style table settings. Okay, user preferences. Just let me glance at this for a second, make sure I'm not missing anything I want to include in here. This is all generally stuff I just edit in the drawing interface. A lot of these are just system variables and stuff. A lot of this is just system variables, but it's just easier to edit them in the options menu. Okay, so we'll go to draw. This is a part of the video I do want to spend time on, especially this aperture size. Notice that I have ignore hatch objects checked, which I believe is the default. So I'm just going to go OK. I have this little thing set up here. I'm going to do any command, in this case line. Notice that when I snap, look how close I have to be to the end of that line for it to snap. So I'm not going to zoom in or out. I'm going to leave my zoom exactly the same. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go back into options. I'm going to increase this to full size. I'm going to go back into the line command. Watch where it snaps to that line now. Use these, I guess I didn't connect that there when I mentioned the hatches. These are just hatches, just to give you like a good reference as to where my my crosshairs are when it snaps. So you can see that I'm quite a bit further away now. Maybe I could demonstrate that better by zooming out just a little bit. Yeah, so now you can see that I'm in that middle hatch when it does snap. So I'll go back into options. So this is very important because the aperture size, you want to set that to your preference. Like a lot of these settings, even the background color, you can usually see, look how close I have to be now for that to actually snap. Very close, right? So depending on what you're drafting, your style of drafting, the content you're drafting with, having that aperture size set wrong can make or break you. So I think I always have it. I have it a little bit tight, but not too tight. So I'll go apply. This just controls the size of that, the auto snap box size. But I don't think it's actually affecting the magnetism, so to speak, of that aperture. So go back into there. I'll set this rate about right there. Click apply. Okay, so what do we got next? I'm just going to look at this stuff. A lot of this stuff is controlled down here as well. Selection sets. So pick box size. The pick box, I have it set really small. By default, I think it's not this small, but it's pretty small. Or too small for me at least. So I usually have this. Let's go to rate. I'll make it maximum size just so you can really see the difference. Because I don't know which resolution this is recording at. But yeah, you can see my pick box is way bigger now. I think I usually have this around right in the middle. And for my eyes, that works pretty good. And if I have to adjust it later, I will. So you can see what's going on here. There's just that grip size is just, you can see that blue thing right there at the end of the line. Not too critical. Okay, so I made all those changes. They should be saving when I hit apply, but and maybe I'll try to find out and I'll experiment with this after the video and leave something in the comments about whether the apply is holding on to my changes or not. But I'm going to add to list. I'm going to do KCS. Oops. So I'll add the 2 to my new name. apply and close. Hit that registry window twice, go like that. I can just delete this guy. Delete. Rename. Close that window twice. So profiles, one reason I want to use GstarCAD is because it has the profiles. I don't have to, but I do switch between a white and black background ever so often. You can make a Lisp routine that will edit the variables that edit your registry. I've been working on it, but I haven't needed it yet. I'd be afraid to share it because I don't like messing with stuff that messes with your registry, because that's I know back in Windows 95 days, I did have programs actually mess up my registry, but I think these are pretty simple changes, and I think confined to AutoCAD, hopefully. So anyways, that was a lot of work. That was number 2 options. Command aliases will be much briefer. Okay, on to number 3, that being command aliases. So I'm in my Manage tab. I'm going to click on Edit Aliases. AutoCAD should be similar up to this point. So this just opened a notepad file. It appeared on my second monitor there. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. So I've already made some aliases down here. I'm going to do one called Select Similar. So in AutoCAD, you might notice a bunch of spaces right here. I think the spaces, the amount of them is arbitrary, but you do need the asterisks and the command's full name. Sometimes the command name itself is somewhat of an abbreviation, like with @edit for attribute edit, but the command, we'll just call it the command full name. It might be an abbreviation of something else, but like dim is an abbreviation of dimension, but it is the command's full, I guess, like default name, let's call it. But yeah, so that's that. I'm gonna hit Control S for save. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna type re-init, reload PGP file. So AutoCAD would have a similar window, but you have to check a box for the PGP file, which it's probably checked by default. So select similar is just something. I'm just gonna copy a bunch of lines. I'll do that again with a circle just so you can see what happened. Select similar just selects similar objects, as you probably guessed. So going back into that PGP file, just remember that re-init part. That's kind of the important point. If you have another version of AutoCAD, you can just copy all these and then paste them usually at the bottom of your PGP file, just to get your aliases from one CAD program to another really quickly. Now GstarCAD does have an alias editor that you might find easier to work with. So that is pretty self-explanatory. So to keep the video short, I'm going to move on to number 4, the CUI. So one strength of GstarCAD is the fact that the CUI is virtually identical to AutoCAD CUI. I believe you could, in theory, import AutoCAD customization into here. But for me, I believe it's just safer to create it from scratch in GstarCAD. But that's something I'll have to experiment with quite a bit. So I don't use the ribbon. You can create custom ribbon tabs and stuff like that. I have directions on how to do that on my channel. I probably also have a better tutorial on what we're going to do here, is that being creating keyboard shortcuts. The reason I'm including this is because generally setting up the CUI is a task that you have to undertake when you're setting up a CAD program. So we're just going to make a quick command here. What I like to do is when I create a new command, it creates command 1, right? And it appears way at the bottom of the list. I'll do command place holder. We'll just do that. We'll get it alphabetically sorted. I'll scroll up. So instead, I just duplicate this. So I'm going to name it pound, so it appears at the top. F1 match prop. So we're going to call this, or not call it anything, we're going to just type match prop, semicolon for enter. I do have a tutorial on how to do macros. This one's pretty simple. We'll click apply, save that so we don't have to do it again in case this does crash. It has been very stable so far, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. I'm going to drag this into keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to go to keys, hit F1. I got to hit this first. So what I'm doing is replacing the F1 key so it doesn't trigger help, because I don't use help that way, and I want to be able to use the F1 key for something useful. So we'll go apply. We'll hit OK. Okay, it seems like we're in business. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to change the color to red. Hit F1. Right on, it worked. Okay, I'm going to go back into the CUI. We're going to do one more. We're going to go to this again. We're going to copy it, duplicate, pound. These days I use F2 for the, if you don't know about the M2P, the middle of 2 points object snap, then you're going to find out what it does very quickly. So these things here, this just hits the cancel button twice, I believe, but we don't need that because the M2P is a object snap. So I'm going to type M2P right here. Click apply. I might need a semicolon here, but we're going to find that out in just a second. I'm going to drag this up to my keyboard shortcuts again. I'm going to go to keys, F2, hit apply. We'll hit OK. So I'm going to go into the line command. I'm going to hit F2. So if you weren't aware, you can actually type in object snap overrides. And I think, like in that case, I did near. I can do perp for perpendicular. There's one special snap, that's M2P, and M2P is hard to type. So just having it on a key, F2, because the 2 kind of helps me remember what it's used for. So I can make F3 NEA for nearest, or F4 perpendicular, stuff like that. And I like typing in the object snaps because if you use the right click menu, you only get access to the object snaps at certain times. So if you type it in, you have, in more situations, you do have access to those object snaps. It is superior if you are able to type them compared to using the right click menu. Because I'll do this, I'll right click, it hits enter in this case. If I right click again, I have my snap overrides now, but before, as you noticed, if I hit line, I don't need to right click and I can just hit F2 and get access to that object snap override before selecting the first point. So yeah, it is for the most part a better way to get access, to your object snap overrides. So one last thing I want to mention is that I swear I set, this might just be something I did, I swear I set these up, but it seems like they may have disappeared, but I might have just deleted something. But just be aware that if your keyboard shortcuts or your customization does disappear, my recommendation, I guess, would just be to set up a few of them first. Don't go too crazy, and just test it out a while, make sure it's still there after a while. If they do disappear on me again, and I'm sure I didn't do anything, I will post that in the comments. So that's that, and let's move on to number 5, Lisp Startup Suite. Like with many other things in this video, the Lisp Startup Suite is something I go into more detail on other videos on my channel, but I'm just including it here more or less just to make sure I include the steps I actually take when setting up a new CAD on a new computer. So to get into this dialog, you type appload. The dialog is going to be a little bit different in AutoCAD, but the functionality will be the same. The important thing here is that the Startup Suite you'll want to load any files you use every session into the startup suite. So now when I start a new session, all those Lisp files will load into a new drawing session. They're not actually loaded in this drawing session yet. To do that, I go to load and then basically select the same files or whichever files I need for this session. So yeah, if you want a Lisp file loaded every session, you got to add it to your startup suite. But for Lisp files that you only add sometimes, you'll want to use the load. And for your own, it's going to be your own use cases that determine that, and you'll eventually know better than me exactly when and what that is. In the case with AutoCAD, of course, remember that Files tab. Remember to add the trusted location wherever that would appear in the AutoCAD version of this dialog to stop that warning message from coming up. So number 6 is just a quick one. I'll explain it. I won't show you how to do it because I don't want to browse through my Windows Explorer, and it's pretty easy to explain. But your AutoCAD program, or in this case GstarCAD, usually has a path something like this. It'll be users, whatever your username is set to, app data, in this case roaming, GstarSoft, replace that with Autodesk if you're using AutoCAD, GstarCAD, replace that of course with AutoCAD. I can't remember if AutoCAD would be the same here. English, WW, whatever that means, but then you have the support folder. And what I do is I make a shortcut in that folder and drag it onto my desktop. That way I have quick access to that support folder. That means that I can, for example, load custom hatch pattern files and a few other things. There are a few other reasons I can't think of right now why it's helpful to have a quick link to your support folder, but this is just something I do include with my AutoCAD setup. I make sure I have a quick access to that support folder. That covers off the 6 steps I would consider my initial CAD setup. There's a lot of other stuff you can do. One thing I don't get into in this video is importing profiles and custom CUI components. Those are things you can do that might speed up your setup process. I do have more in-depth CUI videos on my channel. I don't think I show you how to import. There's quite a few different ways to do that. Profiles, however, I think it's pretty straightforward. A lot of topics in this video I did glance over, so feel 100% free to ask me any questions in the comments to clarify things. There are some things I have to try out in GstarCAD, and if I get any surprises or updates, I will post that in the comments as well. You might have wondered why I didn't include any of these buttons. That's mostly stuff that changes day to day depending on how you draft, so I kind of left that alone as well. But anyways, with all that out of the way, I'm just going to say thanks very much for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful.